What I want to do in principle is pretty easy. I already have my table here, which is just my date and my count of birthdays. And what I want to do is to scan this table, which I can just convert it into a table for the sake of argument. I want to scan this table with my dates, unique dates, and my count of birthdays. And I want to find the highest value in this. In other words, I want to do a max X, where I loop through a table to find what is the highest value in the count of birthdays column. But I need to create this table before I can do that. And this is a little trick that I figured out and gave me a lot of problems. But if you go into data view, you can create a new table using DAX, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, because that will help me with the visualizing what I want to do. So I'll create a new table, which I'll just call table because I don't want to do anything. And I want to summarize my column, which is a grouping function, even though it's called summarize. And this will summarize my column. So functionally, this is the same as using values to take all of my duplicates, because if I just, now it's going to get mad, but if I go into my birthdays table, I have these two values with the same value here. So I have 19 rows, but after I summarize or group, I will have 18 rows because I have 18 unique values. So actually I don't want to group on the name because these are unique, but birthdays are not unique if I have 2 or more rows with the same value. And I want to create a table that is a grouping of the birthdays and then a count. So now I can go back and say my summarize columns. Well, the column I want is again called the Face Connect birthdays, but specifically the birthday, and again not the name. And this gives me all the unique values. So again it says 18 rows, not 19 as I have here, because these two rows have become one. So again, functionally this is the same as saying values. Yeah, it does the exact same thing. It just takes the column, removes duplicates, and converts it into a run column table. But I need to do something when I summarize, and I don't know if I can do that with values, but that's not important right now. So at this point I have done my summarize, and then I can either add a column inside this function where I say I add a new column and then my expression, and I could also use the add columns function, and I'm sure there's performance differences between the two. That's what the website SQL BI says, that it's better to use summarize to make the table and then add columns, but I'm not going to do that because I don't know a lot about DAX and this is convenient. So I will make a new column called count of birthdays, and notice that I'm having spaces in it because my measure is called count of birthdays without spaces and then with capital letters. So this is my name, which has quotation marks, and then my measure is I want to count the rows in the Face Connect table, which I think I can use a measure because the measure is the same, but then we have something like context transition, but that's not a problem. This does exactly what I want to do. So now I have the table that I made here, and now I have to actually do something with it, which is then to do the max X. So I have my table, and then I can do this within my fake table, and then I just need to change some stuff when I make the measure. So my measure is that I want to say, I'm just going to be lazy and copy the name. The max birthdays, which in this case is 2, and then plus 1. And here I need to say 1 plus, and then my actual function, which was the table. But now I have the table as a physical table. So I want to loop through a table, specifically one column, and grab the highest value. And then I need to calculate a whole table because I want to remove any filter context. I don't want my y-axis to change based on if I've clicked on a number or on a month to filter. I want to grab the entire table without any filter context. So this is where I would then type in the function I used to create this. So I would copy this, which I'll do right after. But since I'm already showcasing this, so calculate table, the table I want to calculate is called table. Very descriptive. And then I need a comma, not here, I need the comma in here. And say I want to remove any filters that have been added to my table. Then I want to do it based on count of birthdays, which is then the name of my column, count of birthdays. And then I think I forgot a parenthesis here, and now I have two parentheses. Yeah, so nothing has happened because this is a measure. And again, what I really like about Excel is I can actually see my measures down here. So I have to go in and create a card just so I can add my max birthdays plus 1. So this is 3, and then even if I filter, it doesn't change anything. This count of birthdays is related to my calendar table, so it will get filtered. But max birthdays same day plus 1 isn't. So this was how to make a temporary table. And if you try to create a measure that is something that produces a scalar value as a table, it's going to get mad. Which took me a while to figure out why that happened. But just for the sake of argument, I will just show what happens if I were to make the table here, but actually make that as my measure. Which I'm just going to be lazy and show that this is the measure I end up with, which is just a combination of the two. And then it should get mad. Yeah, it's not a valid table expression because it doesn't produce a table, which is the point. It's supposed to return one value. So at that point I can delete this because that was just a helper. So this is how you can create that table and then show what's going on. And this should be under this table because it calculates. And this is also really annoying about DAX. It gives me either one line or all of the lines, but you can do shift enter to make more lines. And now it's mad because this measure doesn't exist, but I have this measure instead. So now it works and it still isn't affected by any filter context from calendar. And if you have to write this yourself, I'm sure some people can do this, but I can't right now. So I would first create that table using summarized columns and then add my extra column. And then I would evolve it by adding the calculate table. And then you can use the max to get what you want. So now all I have to do is to go into my table, well, my graph, and say my y-axis maximum should now be a measure called max birthday same day plus 1. So this will always be 3, and if I then go back in and remove that imposter, I'm just going to copy that and save that in case I want to add it back later. But right now I'll just delete that. So when I then close and apply, then this table will become 2. Yes, so that's fine. And now I won't forget to do it later. So that is fine. So now I have my graph here in the middle that shows count of birthdays. It always starts from the 1st of January of the current year, going through the 31st of December in the current year. The y-axis is always fixed at 1 above the maximum value. And now we can move to the next video. Yep,